mistakes, ask questions they shouldn't ask, steal information, try to hack onto systems they shouldn't get onto. And that's all stuff that CIA can use to build a legal case to arrest that person. But without knowing, without having something that that person has to stretch to collect, they're not going to make a mistake. So our job was to create something new so that the mole would make a mistake that CIA could track, and that would build a legal case that would allow CIA to arrest an American citizen for espionage.
Did the CIA have access to the information the mole was sending back to the enemy country?
No. That's one of the most dangerous parts about double agent operations. We have a lot of nicknames, a lot of inside terminology, but we usually call it the keys to the kingdom. When you have a foreign penetration, you have the keys to everything in that foreign country's, all of their secrets, because you have access to an intelligence officer who can pull anything. So our double agent, our mole, had access to essentially everything related to Falcon that CIA had. So CIA didn't know what he was sharing, what he wasn't sharing, how much he had been sharing, or even how long he had been sharing it.
But they suspected he was sharing something.
Because there was something that our ally picked up on, something that allowed them to identify the person and communicate it back.
So you land in this friendly country next to the enemy country, and do you have to adopt new aliases, new names, new stories? Do you have to pretend that you're normal people living a normal life?
You do. There's different ways that you can craft it. So Jihi's job as the targeter was to find our targets in Falcon. A big part of what we had to do when we got to Wolf, our friendly country, was do whatever the leadership there told us to do. So CIA crafted everything for us to land in the friendly country. Once we were in the friendly country, then we had to start crafting new identities, new aliases, so that we could travel out of the friendly country and into Falcon.
Into the enemy country.
Mm-hmm. But while living in Falcon, we were, Jihi and Andrew Bustamante, newlywed couple. Where we worked was covered.
Where did you work?
It's undercover. We still can't disclose it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. How old were you when you made your first million?
What is this for?
We're trying to get advice for the younger generation.
Like, as far as this enemy, did you run when you were in the enemy country working? Were you running like a coffee shop, or is it?
Yeah, when going into Falcon, there were different. You had to have a different cover and a different cutout.
And we would use what you're referring to is called commercial cover or commercial activity, meaning we would act as if we were part of commercial business going into and out of the country.
But you'd use your normal names?
No. This is one of the other things that's really fascinating about the book, and one of the reasons that CIA pushed back is we get to disclose whole new levels of tradecraft that have never been talked about in previous books. So the tradecraft that we use here is something that the Brits actually call dry cleaning. And what that means is we would clear our path before we would go into Falcon. So we're in a friendly country, and we need to go into a hostile country. In order to go from the friendly country to the hostile country, you can't go directly. Because if you go directly, the hostile country can track you back to your friendly country. And then they can send a team to hurt you if they need to in the friendly country. So instead what you do is you create a cleansing route. So you travel from the friendly country to a neutral country. And in that neutral country, you'll change identities and then travel into your target country. So now, if the hostile country tracks you, they track you back to a neutral country. And they have no idea that you originated from a friendly country.
But if you go from a friendly country to a neutral country, when you get to the neutral country, do you need a new passport and stuff? Because that neutral country, presumably they don't know that you're spies.
Correct.
So do you have to have a new passport to then get on a plane to fly into the...
Yes, and it's what we would call a passport swap. And there's different ways of doing a swap. You can carry your own swap. You can have somebody meet you to do a swap. You can have a cachet where you hide a swap. But that's the benefit of always using a consistent cleansing route, because you can always go back to the same neutral country. And from the hostile country's point of view, every time they track you, you always go back to the same place. So they start to build a pattern of life, what we call a pattern of life, where they believe you're originating from this country, when in fact you're not.
So you land in this friendly country, you're making your way into the hostile country. What was your objective? What were you trying to do in that hostile country?
The first thing we were trying to do was find targets.
Okay.
And then we knew that as we found targets and built targets, we would also need to support the operations against those targets. And there's a logistical element to espionage where you need to have encrypted phones, you need to have satellite phones or SIM cards, you need to have money, you need to have specialized gifts. Like there's a logistical supply chain that needs to be built.
Specialized gifts.
So things that are appealing to a target that they may not be able to get themselves. Gold bullion, high-end liquors, child pornography, foreign currency, whatever they need, your job is to make sure they have a way of getting it.
Child pornography.
Some targets, especially in the world of drugs and terrorism and weapons, they feed off of the strangest things.
So the CIA would supply that pornography?
In a way, we would more like facilitate the transfer. Some other friendly country might actually be who acquires it. So, for example, Germany might actually have a raid where they carry out a raid against a pornographer and they have terabytes of porn, right? And then the UK might have a case where they need porn to pay an Iranian. So now they can trade with BND so that BND can use this cache of porn and they can give it to the Brits who give it to the Iranians, and that can be a currency of types. Again, morally ambivalent, the goal is to protect your people at the end of the day, right? So when it comes down to it, that's the same way CIA works. If we're giving gold, if we're giving minted American gold coins to an evil person in North Korea, do we really care if it's keeping Americans safe? There are some people who would say yes, and there are other people who would say, whatever the price is, let's keep Americans safe.
So tell me about what you did then. So what did you accomplish while you were there? And you talk in the book about using terrorist tactics to build your operation there. Can you run me through what it is you accomplished there and the role that both of you played?
So I'll start it and I'll let you take it over. But the book's title, Shadow Cell, is really about the cell model and the terrorist cell model that we recreated in our friendly country so that we could execute operations against our hostile country that mirrored tactics and techniques that terrorists had used to foil Americans for the last 20 years in the global war on terror. So what Jihi and I learned is that CIA was not very good at beating terrorists. America was not very good at beating terrorists. That's why after 20 years of fighting in Afghanistan, we left and we gave it back to the same terrorist group that we went in there to fight. We had learned a lot from fighting that adversary, but we were the only country in the world fighting the global war on terror. The Russians, the Iranians, the Chinese, the Cubans, the North Koreans, none of them engaged in the war on terror. So everything we had learned from Al-Qaeda, we were the only ones that learned it. So we found that to be kind of a competitive advantage. So we started building our operations, modeling our operations off of the way the terrorists structured their cells. And we called our cell in Wolf the Shadow Cell. And we had to find the people, recruit the people, and train the people inside our cell, our actual CIA peers. We had to get them to learn how to run the same model. That's really what the book explains, is how we built that and what those people did. Because espionage is not about one superhero overseas. It's about a team of people doing incredible things.
And were those people on the ground in the friendly country next to the hostile country?
Yes.
And so when you recruited these people to build this team, did you recruit them from America, or were you recruiting them inside that friendly country?
Inside of Wolf. Everybody who was in the cell was already working in Wolf.
And the word cell basically means team.
Team.
Right, team.
So you built this team in the friendly country next door to the enemy country, and this team consisted of how many people?
Right. So James was our senior most case officer. Tasha, Luke, and Beverly were our second tour case officers. So they were more junior. That's why they were hungry, but still kind of flexible. Whereas James was at a place in his career where if this didn't work, his career would be tanked. And then Jihi and I were not case officers. We were kind of I was the mission planner, if you will, and Jihi was the targeter. And then Diana was our linguist. Will was our tech support. And that was our cell. That was our little group of people that would sit in the bullpen. Now, it's important to note that none of them, this was their primary mission. It was our primary mission. For all of them, helping us was just something they were doing because they believed that if we were successful, it would be good for them. They had primary missions to do all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And were these people locals?
They're all Americans, and they're all Americans assigned to Wolf. So they're all American CIA officers, all sworn officers, that are assigned to our friendly country in various different covers to do various different primary missions.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current industry.
Okay. And how did you guys like communicate? Did you like meet up for like dinner? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, all of our communication and hangouts were in the office because we couldn't really be seen outside together.
We had what's known as a SCIF, a specialized compartmented information facility. So it was a hardened, soundproof office that we could have meetings in.
Couldn't the adversarial country like watch you walking in there in the morning?
The adversarial country arguably didn't even know we were in Wolf because every time they tracked anybody's travel, it would take them to a different country.
Oh, so you were just people going to an office?
Yes.
So you could be doing anything in there?
Correct.
Yeah, and it's an office in a large office building, so we could really be going anywhere.
Okay, fine. So it's hard to track. So what was your first mission together as a team? Like what were you doing in the enemy country? What was your objective? You were working as a targeter to find interesting individuals, and then Andrew, you were predominantly trying to make contact with those individuals.
Sort of. Well, because I couldn't, as the node of the cell. The node is a term that we're using to say I was the piece that was exposed to CIA. So the mole, if the mole went hunting, the mole would find me. I was the one that was exposed.
Okay.
So for me, it was important that I actually didn't meet with any of the targets that we had in Falcon. My job was to go to Falcon to start sourcing the information that she would use to identify those individuals.
Like, what does that mean?
So whether it's something stupid like a phone book or a thumb drive, whether you're picking up a dead drop from somebody else. So consider, in Falcon, we would have already had other case officers carrying out operations.
Yeah.
So we might have a case officer who was able to extract information from a military database. And that military database has all the weapons engineers for Falcon's Air Force. That case officer...
That spy.
That spy can collect the thumb drive.
Yeah.
And then they can put that thumb drive in what's known as a dead drop. A dead drop would be something that you hide anywhere in the country, in a city, wherever else.
Like in a bush.
Yeah, like in a bush. I would then go into Falcon, and I would go to that dead drop site, the bush.
So you go into the enemy country.
Right.
You'd go to the bush.
And take the thumb drive and bring it back by our cleansing route to Wolf, where I could give it to Jihi. Jihi could then extract the information from the thumb drive, and now she has a list of all the engineers who are part of the enemy country's Air Force. And then from there, she has a starting point for her information to start finding targets. Now, as she finds targets, that's when we tap on our case officers, James, Tasha, Luke, Beverly, and we say, here's somebody that we think would be susceptible to you because you're a middle-aged woman, you're an older man, you're a younger man, you're a younger woman, right? We think that these people might be susceptible to your interests, your backgrounds, your voice, who knows what. And we need you to target them. And then we would send those spies into Falcon to meet the targets that Jihi found.
Okay. Okay, got you.
So the game of espionage is not an easy game. It's a fun game, but it's a chess game, not a checkers game. So there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of moving parts. And for me, it was always very exciting, but I also understand that it can be very difficult to express it well.
Was there ever a time when you felt most at risk when you were in that hostile country?
At some point, my presence in Falcon, in the enemy country, became known to the local government in the enemy country. And they dispatched a surveillance team to track me. It was a major turning point in our operation. We kind of went from a place where we felt like we were winning to a place where we wondered if we were losing. We went from a place where I felt very safe to a place where I felt like I could immediately be apprehended. And then all the worst thoughts start to creep in. Not necessarily about being shot. Oftentimes a CIA officer being shot in a foreign country is a welcome experience because being shot